launch today, right?
Here we go. We're live. It's Red Eyes time. I'm with David Freed. It's Adam Post. David, it's great to see you. How you doing?
Fine, thank you, Adam. I'm doing fine. It's a bit early around here, but...
And around here, approximately speaking, is Switzerland.
Yes.
And I feel like you're in the mountains of Switzerland. I'm getting that impression. I'm getting that
You're
feeling.
getting that absolutely right. Unfortunately, everything's super dark, but I am in the mountains.
Oh, dark is fine. So what are you hiding out? Why are you in the mountains?
I'm hiding from COVID. No, I'm how do you say? My mom has a house in the mountains, so I'm here in her house.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Is it beautiful and picturesque?
It's a chalet that she had since I was a little kid. So
wow.
And I grew up here, part of my infancy. So it's super cozy for my taste.
Should we in the United States, Oliver? Great to see you. Leg kick, great to see you. Shadowhawk is back. Jeez, Postman. Trevor says, "How many live streams you doing tonight, yo?" Trevor, that's a good question. I'm going to give you an answer to that one. The answer is this. I scheduled David, but my friend Kirk Lindo from 30 years ago this year, he launched a campaign, and I wanted to make sure I did a live stream with him on his first day as well. So we were able to squeeze that in right before David's, and here we go. We're having a little bit of fun, and we're finding out about different projects. So as many live streams as it takes, Trevor, that's the answer to your damn question. Shadow, awesome. Always great to see you. Busiest man in comics. That's a fair thing to say. Trevor, I like your attitude, brother. I like your attitude. You're good people. So you're in Switzerland, which I think is very interesting because I'm in Long Island, New York. And to me, it's like, well, it's always been Long Island, New York. So you're in the mountains. You're in Switzerland. What are you doing in the mountains in Switzerland? I mean, you just vacation or?
No, I live here. Also, I live in a place called Matzingen, as you can see from the campaign, which is near Zurich. It's like one of the biggest cities around here. And it was work and studies. I mean, I've been here for like 14 years, 16 years. And I came here on vacations, actually. But then I met the one who became my wife, and that's when I stayed.
Oh, fantastic.
We started dating, got married, had 2 kids, and now we're here.
And you're a family man and everything.
The whole deal.
That's fantastic.
So I'm half Swiss, half Mexican, and my mom is Swiss, and she moved here, and then I came here for vacations and so forth and so on.
Oh, it's very cool.
That's how I
so tonight
landed here.
Tonight specifically, we're talking about Red Eyes 2, your project. It's like Dirty Dozen was published by Heavy Metal Magazine, so there's a Dirty Dozen vibe in a fantasy art world. So this is written and drawn by you. What part of this did you do?
I'm the writer, and also I created this story, and I'm also doing the lettering, and the art is done by a fellow called Christian Culicelli. He's from Italy, and Oliver Liarsi. He's going to be helping us with the colors.
Oh, very nice.
That's really cool.
Oliver, people are always looking for coloring. It's a hot thing. So
yeah.
Definitely, if you're available, hit people up on Twitter. Let them know. Put it on your profile too that you do coloring. People are interested in that. And anybody who hasn't already subscribed, definitely subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications.
I think I have subscribed and liked the video and shared it on Twitter.
Oh, if you haven't, then that would be unspeakably terrible. Sure, you've done right. So now, Red Eyes. This is number 2. Number 1 has already shipped. December and January shipped. People like it. People are backing Red Eyes 2. So what is the story of Red Eyes?
Also, it kind of goes in the vein of the Dirty Dozen. It's about a group of insurgents. Their land was conquered by these fellows you see on the cover. That's the villains cover. They're called the Hunters, and the rebels are trying to liberate their land. And episode 2 picks up right where the first one ended, with the heroes barely escaping these villains. They get to this one town. They were able to free the town from some mercenaries, and now they're planning their next move. And they're slowly but surely realizing this is going to be a very crazy mission, almost like a suicide mission. And each one of the 9 heroes, protagonists, they all have like their own reasons to be here, whether it's money, fame, or for the heck of it. Like the big cat there, he's like really for the heck of it, like, yeah, adventure, awesome. And the protagonist is Blondie, he's a guy with a mohawk, and he is sent in this mission a la Dirty Dozen, basically. He screwed up one too many times. He landed a death sentence, and so he's put in front of the choice: either you go on this crazy, almost suicide mission, or you're gonna hang tonight, man. So he, chooses to go on the mission.
I would do the same thing. I go on the mission.
Yeah, exactly.
This comic is full color?
It's going to be full color, yeah.
Okay. And how many pages is this thing?
Right. We have 44 pages finished in black and white, but we're going to add like a couple more for the drawn-in tiers.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 drawn-in tiers. Both of them were taken, so we're going to add more or less 8 pages. So it's going to be 52 pages in the end.
52 pages in color.
Yeah.
Because, I'm looking at the pricing, and your pricing is less than usual, less than what other people charge.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm kind of also it's the prices is going to have a $10 for shipping,
mm-hmm.
and $20 international shipping.
Okay. And you're based in Switzerland, so most are going to be international.
No. It's going to, domestic is the US domestic.
Oh, are you going to ship from the US?
Yeah. Like we did with the first one, we printed everything with Mixam, and by the way, I was watching your videos of how to fulfill and how to printing and shipping, and so I contacted Mixam, and it went amazingly well. I'm surprised how well that went, and the shipping was done by John Mallon, by his
I was going to recommend him. So so John did the fulfillment. Great.
Yeah,
great. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's very cost effective. It's it's not going to be really cheaper to do it yourself, and John's just doing it to keep it going and to support Comicsgate. John and I did I think we did a video just talking about his fulfillment. I know we discussed his fulfillment when I interviewed him, but you're more of an expert on it than I am right now, because you actually did a book with him.
Yeah, no, it was
very smooth, right?
It's smoothly, yeah. No, I was surprised how to say. Also, the reason I went with him is because he already fulfilled 2 huge campaigns with Graveyard Shift 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, okay, he knows what he's talking about, no?
Yeah, he's very responsible. Very.
No, yes.
You can count on him. He'll make a joke every now and then, but he's like a very solid guy. It's great to have him. I'm really happy to hear you did it already. You know what? Do you have a YouTube channel?
Me? Yes, I have a small YouTube channel. I just have,
do a video and title it, I use John Malin's shipping company, and talk about your experience with John, You could also mention my wonderful Secrets of the Comicsgate Network series, if it was helpful to you.
It was, yes.
Yeah, so you can mention me. You can mention me too, but I would definitely do a video, let people know, because it's interesting as hell. And John is so busy, with everything he's doing. He's not pushing the fulfillment service, but it really is. It's an excellent thing for people located outside the United States, in particular, because it's expensive to ship. That's just bottom line. Yes. It's very expensive.
No, and it makes sense because the biggest market is the US, and you don't want to, like everyone that backs from the US has to pay international shipping. It doesn't make sense. So I say, okay, you know what? We're going to do it like that. Domestic is the US, and somehow we'll manage it. And it was so cool that when we were getting ready for shipping, John put out this tweet with his secret of fulfillment. So it was like God sent almost, okay,
yeah. And I wanted to do a video to make sure people were aware of it, just about the service. And I did discuss it at length with John in his video, but I don't think I did a specific video dedicated to it. So I'm really glad you didn't miss it. You were able to take advantage of that. And it was great for your backers too. Great to see you too, Faris, and great to see my buddy Lord Ravener. He's educating us on exchange rates. A Swiss franc is only like $1.10 US. Yeah. Okay, well, it is what it is.
Yeah, the people in Switzerland are freaking out because usually the dollar is stronger than the Swiss franc, but right now the Swiss franc is stronger, so people are freaking out. They're doing everything to weaken the coin, so we don't have that much trouble with exports, imports, and tourists. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's going to happen, this currency exchange rate, but that's great. So you ship domestically. You're located in Switzerland, but your comics shipped They will ship directly from the great John Malin
Yep.
from his own hot little hands. So that's terrific. From his people, he's got a team there getting it done. So it's really, really cool. And I'm glad Mixam worked out for you too.
Yes.
You know, Mixam, they worked out well for me. That my plan is to print the Mermaids with them as well. My current campaign. I have heard some people have had some issues with them. It's just good. Talk to them about your project. Talk to them about what you're doing. And you know, if you have any issues, deal with everything up front with them. If you have any problem with them, just tell them up front. And I've worked with a lot of different printers over the years, like many, many, many. And different printers are good at doing different things. So, you know, just talk to them if you have an issue or problem or a question, deal with it right away with them. And from what I've heard, even people that have had problems, they've cleared them up. We had a problem because I did a 140-page collection. My College of the Dead book 1 was 140 pages, black and white. There was an issue where their perfect binding crimped and damaged a little bit, like almost like they didn't set the machine properly for that many pages because it was a very thick book, and it was like a third of them had issues. They reprinted them and replaced them. So, but the thing is, you just got to communicate. The thing is with business relationships, this is what I found. Something will go wrong over time. It really tells you about the people that you're working with is how do they handle the problem when it happens. And it's sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but that tells you the kind of the character and the quality of the people that you're dealing with. And sometimes it's just not a good fit, business relationships wise. But I'm glad that worked out so well for you. I'm really happy.
Yeah. I'm happy. They have like a little message box. Like once you're finished with them and you know, like you sent everything for printing, you have like a message box, so you can message with them back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And they did, like, you know, like they did contact me, like, you know, page so and so of this file doesn't look so good. Maybe you want to check it, and you know that they took the care to do that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's neat. They have it pretty well organized. They're really like a technology company. It's kind of interesting. All right, so Red Eyes is a story of Dirty Dozen
meets a fantasy world.
So what is this world? This is not Earth, right? This isn't even Switzerland. This looks a little bit like it looks a little bit like Spain, but it's not Spain.
With a conquistador armor. Yeah, no, it's a world like ours. It's obviously a different world, and it's I guess I always say it's kind of like when the Industrial Revolution happened, you know, the early Industrial Revolution, but in a world where you also have these power stones that allow to do almost like magical features, and there's also these monsters and fantasy creatures. And other than that, yeah, it's pretty similar to ours. Like it's all the same rules, and even the powers that exist are not extremely overpowered. No one in this planet is able to just snap their fingers and destroy an entire city or something like that. Is
this Danny DeVito?
When he was young, maybe.
When he was young, back when the Taxi show. I'm working on a new couple of characters right now for a new project for Indiegogo, and it's going to take me a while to be like, we've got to draw like this fat guy and he looks like Danny DeVito. Like I'm always just thinking like beautiful women, beautiful. It's like, but they can't all be beautiful women.
No, you cannot.
Not all.
They have to contrast so the girls look even better.
They kind of sort of can be. They could also be little girls that have not yet grown up into beautiful women, a la the Mermaids, my project. But yeah, no, that I admire your diversity of cast of different people, like different interesting human beings. And this guy, these are the villains, right? Or are they all villains, this cover?
These are all the villains, yes.
Okay. And this is in continuity with Red Eyes 1. So have you wanted to do Red Eyes for a long time, and finally, because of Comicsgate, you're able to do it?
Yes, that's more or less exactly that. I've been working on this story on and off, obviously, but for years, probably since I was like 14, 13. And I always thought this was going to be like a novel or maybe a movie.
Since you were 13 or 14?
Yeah.
It's a long time.
That's a long time ago. Yeah. I'm almost 40 now, so.
Oh, all right. Well,
I haven't been working on this the whole time, you know.
Like
not doing other projects.
No, I understand. Like you got married and you have like a couple of kids.
And I got married, of course, you know. But yeah, on and off, I would, write more for this, and then I would change the story. And
you have two children. One is named Red, the other is Eyes, because you've been that focused on this. Red Eyes, get in here. Eric. You're like, that's a good idea. Tell your wife about that for the next two. Eric, good to see you. Lord Ravener, thank you for saying hi to Eric. I like Eric a lot. Time of Dying is back. What up, Time of Dying? All right.
What a time
very
to
cool.
be dying.
I was listening to your trailer before the show for a couple of seconds, and I know your trailer goes kind of fast. The guy in it has an interesting accent, so let's listen to the trailer.
Comic fantasy fans, I'm your host Wtih, bringing you Red Eyes 2.
Oh, hey, that's you.
Fair son of the general is on a mortal quest. After escaping elite hunters and fighting off mercenaries, surely things will be fine for our heroes. Red Eyes is back with more pages, action, monsters, a new Ashkin, and new entries in the sexy monster girl bestiary. Only on Indiegogo.
Nice.
Thank you.
I'll tell you, I like these new trailers. I love the trailer. All the trailers that Ted Zagaro does from what he did two so far. But I love both of them, and they're like really iconic, and they're like film trailers. But they're always like a minute and 8 or minute and 9 seconds, which made sense at the time. Now, like everybody's doing these hot little 30-second trailers, and I really like them.
Yeah, no, I think that was a recommendation of your boy Coach. To keep it to 30 seconds, so you can also put it like in between live streams and stuff like that.
Yeah. John will strip them together in his videos, or he used to do that. I know, but it like have to be like exactly 30 seconds or less to fit them in. But yeah, it's kind of neat. It's kind of neat to do that. You get kind of like right to the point. Ethan Van Sciver did one for Rainbow Brute, and it's just like a nice presentation, and then he throws in the one iconic line, back this campaign and you choke slam a unicorn or something like that. Just like, all right. Well, he leaves you like with that one iconic line, and like, all right, that's cool. 30 seconds, tight, boom, some music, back it on Indiegogo, and you're in, you're out. So that's cool. Yeah, it's something we can all. That's great to see us all kind of learn from each other and kind of evolve like that.
Yeah.
This is Red Eyes 2. Now you went with. I see this and it makes me nervous when I see people do this, like a flexible goal instead of a fixed goal. So I'm not criticizing at all, but I'm curious to ask why, if you do a flexible goal, I know that you get the money even if it doesn't fund. Thank God it funded. We could always use more funding, by the way. Is this going to be extended or already in the extension period?
We're already in the extension period. This is the last 6 hours.
So why flexible instead of fixed?
I think that I thought that if you want to go in demand, it has to be flexible. Which I don't know if you can do in demand with a fixed goal.
No. Time of Dying, it's going to be full color. All right, so there's a misconception. Yes. We're going to clarify your misconception. And Time of Dying is asking, is this a black and white comic? It is full color. That's not your fault, Time of Dying, because when we look at your description, we do see black and white art right away. And to be honest, when people are looking at things, you have to assume that they're incredibly distracted while they're looking, and they're going to look like 10% of the listing. They're going to just glance quickly. They're going to understand and interpret what they see, and then they're like, "All right, am I going to back it or not?" And they're not going to get to the color page. So that's what we should do is we should take this. I don't care if it's out of sequence or not. We should take this color page and make this the first thing that people see.
All right.
No, not before your cover, but the first sequential art piece that they see. Right. And by the way, they don't need lettering either. Nothing about your lettering plus or minus. We do that another day. But if they just see sequential art without lettering, it leaves more to the imagination.
Automatically, there's like, okay, it's color.
Yeah, well, you need them to see color. And in fact, that is a problem. Straight up problem that people are, when they're backing this, as far as they're concerned, they're backing a black and white comic. Now, that in a lot of people use a quick evaluation. So that's a huge help. That's a great suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll definitely. I've been taking advice from people. Time of Dying
00. By the way, there's all sorts of things wrong with my projects, but that's a good. The chat always knows. The chat asks the good questions. We were on with my friend Kirk with his campaign. Kirk's been publishing a long time. Like even before he was publishing, he was working for me when I was publishing. And his campaign He's got all this art. It's beautiful. It's interesting. Not one page of interior art. Not one page. So we're like, Kirk, you need interior pages, because he has some beautiful interior pages. But if you don't show them, you don't know them. They don't exist. Right. And so in this case, don't do that. Let's just show color art. And to be honest with you, without the lettering is better than with the lettering. It's very hard for them to get the story out of context like that anyway.
I'm going to take notes from that as well.
Let's just show color pages when it's a color comic. If it's a black and white comic that's going to get upgraded to color on a stretch goal, that's a different story. You maybe want to show a black and white and a color page and then explain stretch goal in big letters at the top.
Right. Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
Hail David Feed.
Hail Mr. Tatsuname. He's from Switzerland as well.
Another Switzerland guy. I have questions for you too, mister. I have Switzerland questions for you. What, you guys talk Swiss? Is that the language?
Yes, it is a language. It's kind of a dialect, as a sort of a dialect, because there are no like grammatical rules. So it's like
that's cool.
It's based in German, but it's just like willy-nilly with the how you write it, kind of.
I don't have a problem with black and white. Oh wow, Time of Dying is on my side here. He has no problem with black and white comics. I've published mostly black and white comics in my publishing, but Adam made a great point about how to arrange a campaign. Yeah, it's just important. It's funny because I also learned this. I have a telemarketing business. That's my 9 to 5, and I love comics, and that's my 5 to 9, I guess, whatever. But you can't over assume comprehension from people. So they're going to look at something 2-3 seconds, and they're going to make a decision. So you want them, if they want to back your project, if they want to say yes to you, or if they want to say no to you, at least you want to be clear about what they're saying no to. They don't want to say no because you're a black and white comic. Well, you aren't a black and white comic. So that's not acceptable, damn it.
Right. I got it. Yeah, no, that's absolutely right.
Domestic U.S. shipping. That's right, because we're shipping from John Malin's facilities. And David's back. Oh, you back 29 other projects?
Oh, my goodness. I think.
Back to Mermaids. Cancel those other ones. No, that's fantastic. I had something else intelligent to say to you. Oh, this is important. Everybody needs to know this. David is his second campaign. He was not aware of this. And by the way, Secrets of Comicsgate Network, we did a video talking about flexible versus fixed and why fixed is 1,000,000 times better. Now, flexible has nothing to do with being in demand. Not a thing in the world to do with being in demand. Zero to do with being in demand. When Indiegogo says fixed, what they mean is if the goal is not reached, the money will not go to the project creator. So if Adam launches a project with a $100,000 fixed goal and Adam only gets $99,000 on his campaign, whether it extends or not, if the campaign is at $99,000 and Adam is a day late and $1,000 short, he will not receive that money. But if Adam does a campaign for $100,000 and Adam gets $99,000 on a flexible campaign, I will receive the $99,000.
Right.
So the reference to flexible is a reference to say whether or not, if you raise the money, even if you don't make the goal, will the money go to the creator or not? So the backers are all aware of that. So they look at your campaign and they say, all right, Adam has a fixed goal, as I did with College of the Dead. I think it was $5,000. Oh, no, I had a flexible goal, of $5,000 for College of the Dead Book 1. And I did not have a social media following. And I did not have a YouTube channel. And I had not been on Ethan Van Sciver's channel. And I really hadn't been on anybody's channel. And when people were looking at my campaign, what they would notice is, oh, that's a nice color cover for College of the Dead, zombie football, whatever. And some interior pages look pretty good. That was black and white. The black and white interior pages, fine. But they would notice that my funding was not so good. I had been in a week or so, and I had like $300 in backing. So people start to wonder because they see, wait a minute, he's got a $5,000 goal. He's got like $300 or $500 in funding. Is this guy going to get funded? And if this guy doesn't get funded, is he just going to keep my money?
Because I see what you mean. Yeah,
that's the issue. So that's why a fixed goal, even though a flexible goal is attractive, it's a problem because people think well, if this guy doesn't get all his money, is he really going to ship my campaign? And it gives them an extra thing to worry about. So it creates friction in the sale. It creates friction with a backer. So we want the lowest goal possible, and for somebody new, and you're not new, but for somebody new, $3,000 should really be your maximum, even if you have a substantial social media following. If your name is Kenneth Rocafort, this doesn't apply to you, Kenneth, and he knows that. If you don't have a big social media following, if you don't have like the hottest new looking campaign on the planet, people will create friction. Now, incidentally, Kenneth has a 27,000 following on his Twitter of his own people, and all of us in Comicsgate are so excited to have Kenneth, with us, and we're doing everything we can to support him. So he's got that extra momentum behind him as well. But flexible versus fixed, that's the deal with that. So I really to suggest that people just think twice, because what you don't want people to do is look at your campaign and wonder, hey, is this guy going to just keep the money? And if they judge that he will, then they won't back it. And I found myself on Ethan Van Sciver's channel repeating myself, and I was fortunate enough because Ethan had scooped a bunch of us up. He's very generous, allowing me on his channel, talking about College of the Dead Book 1 and letting people know, oh, by the way, I know the funding is only $2,000, and I know I'm flexible, but I can ship it no matter what because my book's already done. And like, that's not what you're supposed to be doing, and
he
didn't ask that of me or anything like that. But I was looking at it and I'm like, oh, damn it. If it was me backing it, what would I look? I would look at it and be like, what is this guy doing? He's like, is he going to just keep the money and not ship the book? Because already people are looking at it and they're like, and also because
that has happened, like people also think that because it has happened as well.
Not because of people don't look trustworthy or not. It's just like, what are the mechanics here of I give you $1,500 and you're going to give me a 140-page graphic novel that you're shipping internationally? Is that really going to happen? Or is it just going to the project's going to go off the rails? So it's not just not trusting the person. It's also just, it doesn't, people who back crowdfunding.
The psychology of this, the whole deal, no?
People who back crowdfunding campaigns are pretty sophisticated. Oh, that was nice. That was my friend Kirk from before. Nice looking book. Thanks, Kirk. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Yes.
Adam was a nobody, a loser, a schmuck, but still handsome and funny. And somehow he rose to the top. Still welcome on channels. I haven't burned all my bridges just yet. They still love me. They're just so great. Comicsgate is so great, and we all get a chance to do our thing and build our social media and deliver for our backers. So to get back to the point, it is correct that if you don't meet your goal, if you don't meet your goal in the first 30 days of your campaign, you can still extend for another 30 days. You can max your campaign. That's no problem. However, if you don't meet your goal and you're flexible, you cannot go in demand.
Right. Yeah.
So you will still get the money from being flexible if you fund 99.9% of it, but you will not be able to extend and stay in demand. And it's terrible to not be able to stay in demand. It's one of the strengths of Indiegogo. Are you still in demand on? You closed that first one because of.
I closed the first one to have like a logistical of it, to know exactly how many books I'm going to send, and also because the campaign was a bit of a mess. The prices were a bit Anyway, so I said, okay, this is a bit of a mess with the perks. I had like so many hidden perks because it had like different languages and different whatever. So I said, okay, close, and we're going to do a second one where it's going to be very, very clean. 1, 2, 1 and 2 together. That's it. And
that's what I did with College of the Dead Book 1. We raised about $5,300, and then over another 6 months, we raised like another $5,000. And I closed College of the Dead Book 1, which was great. It was great to raise extra money. That in demand is fantastic. And then I launched College of the Dead Graduation Day, the sequel, and I closed College of the Dead Book 1, that campaign like that same day. And then I kept College of the Dead Graduation Day open. It's still open now, actually. It's been a while. And we shipped, we closed it at 25,000, which was great. And then we did another 9,000 as the months went by. So being able to stay in demand you sold additional books when you were in demand as well, right?
Yes, yes. Also, we stayed in demand till we started the fulfillment process. And like the day, something like that, like the day I closed the campaign, I opened the sign-up list for the second one. And once, you know, the first books were being shipped, we opened the campaign properly, the second one.
So I know I went on for a while, but you see what I mean about the flexible goal?
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. Yeah, I
That
kind of
co-
make a mistake with that. I thought that you can only go on demand if you go flexible. So say, okay, flexible it is. But no, no. Also, the idea is that we're gonna fulfill it no matter what. Like the first one as well. Like at some point at the end, we're like, oh, maybe we're not gonna get it, but you know, we'll fulfill it anyway because.
Yeah, honestly, too. Like I was looking at this, one of the reasons why I went for like 5,000 instead of like 3,000 or 2,000 was I initially went in thinking like, all right, you know, I want to make sure I do make enough money to recoup some of my expenses. Like you get in your own head and stuff like that. The truth is, you want a cool project. We're not going to get. There's not a lot of. You know, it's funny. It is different. Here's how Kirk. I think you're going to notice this too if you're listening in the audience. Kickstarter, you have people that kind of like feel bad for you. Kickstarter's kind of like, oh, you know what? They're trying to get their numbers. Let me at least back this guy. I'll give him a donation. And in Indiegogo is more like if they want the project, if they think you're cool, if they think your project's cool, those are multipliers. You're going to back you. So I think that there are now the people that are currently supporting your project. Will they help share it if they want to support you and they don't see your numbers where they will? But I don't think there's a lot of pity backers for Indiegogo. I think it's more like a real actual merit based. Like Red Eyes has earned $3,853. It's earned every penny of it. People are interested in this book that are spending this money.
I think also because, you know, with Kickstarter, you put a donation, but you get billed by the end of the thing, right?
So yeah, that's another major difference is that there are some credit cards that don't go through.
Exactly that. No, with Indigo, it's not like that. Like the moment you make the donation is the moment the money goes out of your credit card. So it's like, okay, I really have to, you know, make my mind about, but exactly what you said, you know, like it has to convince you and you have to be willing to part with that money right at that moment.
Yeah, they're making a commitment right then. It's not like we'll bill you in a month on the credit, because that's true. With Kickstarter, it's something to watch out for. You really do lose some because people's credit cards don't work or the debit cards don't go through. You can still cancel it. You can get people can cancel something back. It happens to be very rarely, but it can happen. But the main thing is being in demand is great because then you can continue to promote. You know,
yes, no, that's a really cool thing of Indiegogo that you can go on this in demand. And yes, like a lot of people who backed Red Eyes, I've seen them on Twitter, you know, like promoting and posting and hey, I just backed this project, like hey, check, and you know, like writing stuff on their own. Like you can see that they read the first one,
and
then they are, you know, talking a little bit about the story. So that's amazing about the Comicsgate community.
I have another suggestion, and that is, I think it'd be helpful is. To ask John Malin if it's okay, just write what you'd want to say, but ask him if it's okay to say, you know, fulfilled from the USA from John Malin's secret productions or secret distribution. I forgot what he calls the company, but just so
secret door fulfillment.
Okay, whatever it is, just like fulfilled from the asterisk fulfilled, shipped right from the USA by John Malin's name of his company, the name of his company. Ask him if it's okay to list that in the campaign, because I think it's also for people like yourself who are in the mountains of a beautiful foreign country. They will make up their minds of like, well, international, so the shipping is going to be like an extra $20 for this. I don't know. You know, already they're starting to think that, and it's not true. And I think also you know,
that's a great suggestion.
I think it's good for people to be aware of it. And also maybe it'll get John more business, which is good too, because the whole thing that it is like all of us want each other to succeed in Comicsgate as much as we can, because it does build it. It makes us all stronger this way.
Yeah, I've been talking about John everywhere I go. You know, like was fulfilled by John, and when I'm at my place anyway, I show the book and stuff like that. So
I mean, you know what? You know, this is something you should be saying.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'll ask John if I can put
Yeah,
that
ask him if it's okay to mention it. I don't think he'd have a problem with it, but ask him if it's okay to mention it. And I hope it would encourage other people as well to contact him. I don't know how many clients. I asked him if he's taking on small clients, and he's like, "Yeah, there's no minimum." And you're proof of it because you're not doing millions of.
Yeah, not a huge campaign, but
it's a small campaign, but like hell, you're able to do it. He did it for you. It succeeded. So let's get the word out and make everybody more successful.
Oh, sure.
All right.
Yeah. Good.
Time of Dying, again, getting us back on track. Thank you, Time of Dying, my producer. Time of Dying. Kirk did that earlier. Kirk got me back on track with something. So let's hear the elevator pitch for Red Eyes. Do you have an elevator pitch? You know what I mean by elevator pitch?
Yeah, I know what it is. Also, the first one was, is this like Conan the Barbarian, but with freaking guns? We changed it eventually.
What you have to do for an elevator pitch. And by the way, it's impossible to get thrown on the spot and be like, oh, okay, great. I'll just do it in this format. But let's just, nobody's perfect here. You should hear my pitch for the Mermaids. But anyway, it's not that great. My elevator pitch.
I think it's like the Dirty Dozen published by Heavy Metal Magazine. It's kind of the perfect pitch so far.
But here's what you want to be able to develop. It doesn't have to be on the spot. You want to be able to describe your story and what it's about without referencing other projects. And here's what we're going to do. It's impossible. I'm not giving you an impossible situation, so I'm not going to try to force you to do it. What I've been doing for the Mermaids is this, and this is just, it's educational for you, for me, for Eric Huffles. I don't know. Now, I was doing a description for the Mermaids that it's like Game of Thrones with mermaids. Now, when I first started with the idea for the Mermaids, I would just tell people, well, it's like Game of Thrones with mermaids. Because
yes, I remember that.
That's what I thought was cool about the idea. That's what started the Mermaids for me, is like it's Game of Thrones with mermaids. At that point, I started working with other people. I started working with an editor. I worked with a writer, and then I started working with I started working with a character designer, an artist who I started having draw my mermaids. And the way I did it was I found an artist that I was looking on Facebook. I spent a lot of time on Facebook at the time, and I was looking for an artist that just looked like they could do cool fantasy art. And I found this guy that could do fairies. He was just drawing these different fairies, and they were intricate and they looked unique. And I was like, wow, that guy'd be perfect for doing mermaids. So I asked him to do a mermaid with Sai. I explained it was like a royal thing. It was like Game of Thrones with mermaids. And Jerry came up with all of this. And then I had like 5 or so of them. And then I hired my editor friend, and then he helped me find a writer to develop it further. And then we all kind of talked. So for me, it's always kind of been Game of Thrones with mermaids. Now, it turned out that it evolved into sort of a Star Wars story. So eventually we'd focused on this one character, Jonna. And my short pitch for this is Jonna had nothing left to live for until she discovered a new purpose, revenge. So that's one sentence. Is that fantastic? No, it's not fantastic, but pretty good. It kind of tells you this is the main character. This is what their focus is. And I had overdone it so much with mentioning other franchises that I don't mention them anymore. Now, that's not a fault of yours or anything like that. But now I eventually came up with, I mean, by eventually, like, basically, like at the tail end of this, after the campaign's over, it's in demand now. People are still back at the Mermaids. The Mermaids is a sword and sorcery story about a naive but highly educated teacher who discovers courage she never knew she had when she teams up with a hot-tempered veteran warrior, a reckless commander, and desperate citizens to lead a rebellion against the sinister forces of an evil mermaid queen. Now, it's one sentence. It's a long sentence with a lot of words in it. But that is the story. That's the story of the Mermaids. And I'm able to kind of say, like, all right, this is the genre. So it's cool to be able to talk about the genre. Identify your main protagonist. And you may have 17 protagonists, but you have one protagonist that drives the most action in the story, or that changes the most. If, for example, in Pulp Fiction, Samuel L. Jackson's character is the main protagonist of that. Why? Because his actions drive most of the story, most of the action, and he changes the most. He decides to become a righteous man instead of, so it's really, when we're describing it, we describe his arc when we're talking about the story. And she does become a stronger, in my story, she becomes a stronger character, teams up with them, and their main focus is to overthrow the evil mermaid queen, Queen Leaf. But you wouldn't even necessarily have to mention character names when you're doing a description like that. Now, I am no expert. I'm just putting more and more effort into being able to describe what my story is about. It's a very fair question when someone says to you, Adam, so okay, tell me what your story is about. Well, it's kind of like Game of Thrones with mermaids. And that's Adam cheating, really. I'm publishing it. It's Adam posts the mermaids. So Adam, I mean, you gotta do better than Game. Yeah, it's gotta be like Adam post. You need to give us a little bit more here.
I see what you mean. Yeah, when you're referencing other stuff that's good and good and dandy,
it's a very good shorthand. But the thing is, that's aesthetic. It's The Godfather. Oh my God, this is a friend of mine, was a film and TV guy, and they were doing The Godfather in space. Now, they had interest selling it. It's The Godfather in space, but I gave them so much a hard time of it. This is before I knew more about. I've learned more about stories since. This is 20 years ago. I was working with them and stuff, and is The Godfather in space? And I was like, well, what do you mean it's The Godfather in space? Like, who's the law authority? And we got talking about it, and it was like, it's a great shorthand, but.
Mm-hmm. No, I see what you mean.
But which character whose character are you going to tell me this story? Because The Godfather is really, the main story of it is Al Pacino's character, Michael, when his main thing was to not join the family business, and then you have the reversal of him joining the family business, and he starts out as naive, and then he becomes wise, and so it's his arc, it's his story, it's his evolution. So, so that's kind of like the question is like, where are you going with this? And so
I have also we used to have Evan in the first campaign. We had this it's like Conan but with guns, no? And then we changed it to the general's son, his quest for honor or death in the battlefield. So that was the short elevator pitch for the first one.
Yeah.
And because we went over the kind of the same, where like at the beginning we had this, short referencey kind of thing, and then we changed it to a more specific slogan. But yeah, I haven't done that for Red Eyes 2. I need to.
Yeah, and by the way, rather than take my advice that it's worth looking into more. Some of the examples I gave, I'm not like an expert in any of this. I'm just very enthusiastic about it. I've been learning about it more, and I'm seeing new opportunities open up. Like it's very interesting because you have to keep in mind too. We want our audience to be able to see themselves in our character and kind of really. They don't have to be like, oh, I'm just like that mermaid. Like not necessarily, but you want to see them feel like they can kind of understand where the character's coming from. So when you give them a flavor of like, well, it's this character who starts out naive and then decides, learns that they're actually stronger than they realized, and then has to face this challenge. It starts to become interesting.
I see. Yeah.
You want to see like, well, how does a character do that? We're going to feature this comment because it starts off perfectly. This is a great way to make comments on my channel. Adam is so right. Adam is so right. It's almost like a musical kind of thing to say.
You just read.
I've avoided. Okay, Lord Revener says I've avoided UK and Euro projects solely due to shipping. So you've discriminated against them, which makes Charlie's project even more remarkable. Yeah, Charlie's has been a very successful project. Charlie's London, and I don't know how Charlie's. I'm sure she's going to. Actually, I think she said actually quite clearly she's going to be doing her own fulfillment. But it is something to think about. And you see like other big projects, like Xenotype's a huge project out of Australia. Yeah. And it's a lot of shipping involved there. It's, in terms of cost. And look, we understand, on these projects, we were just talking about this in one of the group rooms, talking about like, what is everybody charging for shipping? And One of us is charging $30 for international shipping. I'm pretty sure I charge $20 for international shipping for everything outside the U.S. Another one of us is charging $25 for international shipping because, even the $30 is very safe because almost everything is going to be a little bit less than $30. But $20, it doesn't even cover it all the time.
No.
I was very happy to ship a bunch of my books and art books and stuff for College of the Dead to Israel, I think it was. And I was just thrilled that Israel wanted to buy my books. So the shipping was more expensive than we charged, but we also sold them a bunch of books. So it does kind of average out. But
because you get a couple that's going to be a little bit cheaper, and then you're going to have a few that's going to be a little bit more. So it does balance it out, no? Oh, Mr. Unhinged.
Yeah, Unhinged is all right. Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, look, I love talking with guys who are making projects, and if we can help each other out a little bit, suggestions, hopefully you'll see more and more great projects, coming from all of us, and you'll be able to see our next project is cooler than, the one before. So there's going to be a Red Eyes 3, it looks like.
Certainly, yes.
Excellent.
Well, yes, I'm taking notes of all the things you said. I think this is fantastic. I'm gonna get to work. Well, I'm probably gonna go to sleep a little bit.
Okay, yeah, it's late at night over there.
Then I'll get to work immediately with this.
Yeah, take a look and see, and you can whatever is useful to you, whatever is beneficial to you, and
I appreciate all this helps.
Yeah, look, it's fun to talk about and share experiences, and it all helps each other, which again, like, it makes us all stronger. If you want to look up like summaries and things, look up log lines. There's a lot for screenplays that really apply to us. So you can look. There's a YouTube channel called Film Courage that has some fantastic interviews.
I've seen that channel. Yeah, I've seen a couple of interviews. They're pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I just found a great book by, I think her name is Jill Chamberlain, that talks about the nutshell method of writing, and it's an analysis process which really gives you. Look at this. Let's just start it out with the implied in parentheses. Adam was right. The screen is full. Adam was giving extremely good advice. I'm just pretty much, I appreciate that, Laura Raven. I'm just repeating stuff that makes sense, I think, that I read or heard or something like that. But Film Courage is the YouTube channel. And
I've seen that.
The book that I picked up was the Nutshell Method, which is this. Hey, it's Teddy Z.
The Nutshell Method.
See you, brother. Good to see you. Yeah, the Nutshell Method is a great book, but you can see her. She does like some an hour and a half interviews on YouTube. This Jill Chamberlain. And it's very interesting for writing, very interesting just to make sure that our stories have characters where there's a strong change in our characters and it's interesting. I was actually using her process, and it's an analysis process to make sure that you've got like the 8 elements that you need to have a very potent story. I was using her process on the Spider-Man origin story that Stan Lee wrote because I loved the Spider-Man origin story. And I always thought that what the story was about was, with great power comes great responsibility. But the truth of it is that story is a classic tragedy, as Aristotle would define a tragedy. Everything's either a tragedy or comedy. When the main character learns from their story and they've become a different person by their own action, improving upon themselves, that goes into the category of comedy. Even if it's not funny, that goes in the character of like a positive thing, which is 95% of stories. The other 5% are tragedies, like Spider-Man, where when Spider-Man had the choice to be responsible and to use his powers for the benefit of society,
he doesn't. No?
He doesn't do it, and as a result, it's a tragedy. Not because his uncle died, which is sad, but because he didn't learn his lesson of how to be responsible. So the story is really about responsibility. And I was like, oh my God, I really learned a lot from this. This is fantastic.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then as you look at like, well, what's your character's main flaw? Their story is supposed to be about having that main flaw tested to then see like, are they able to overcome that flaw and really learn and become, a more evolved person with like higher.
Yeah, there's gotta be a change, because otherwise it's like if they start as a person and the
Or
story ends and they're the same person,
well,
then
they could be the same person, but that's the tragedy, is that they didn't learn.
then it's a tragedy. Yeah.
And then as a result, it doesn't mean that the person's evil. It just means that, and this is apparently it's very common for superheroes, because now you want Spider-Man to have not learned. If Spider-Man had learned responsibility and been like, oh, you know what? I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to immediately be a hero just because I have all this extra power, and I'm going to just be a hero and a socially responsible person. If he had done that, his uncle would have been saved. But you look at the end of the story, and like now we're at the end of the story where his parents were dead. His uncle and his aunt made a home for him because he was irresponsible with his power, which is something that teenagers need to learn because they start to get power. So because he was irresponsible with his power, his uncle died as a result. He can never fix that. So now he can never fix that problem where he chose to be irresponsible. And now his uncle's dead. And his aunt doesn't know that he's responsible for his uncle's death. He has to look at his aunt's face every day while he's living in his aunt's house and be like, hey, Aunt May, and she's crying in her room. And she's like, hey, Peter, don't worry about me and whatever. He's got to see that face every day.
Knowing what happened.
Knowing what happened, which would be bad enough even if he didn't do it. But he did it. It's his fault for being irresponsible. So this is a cross that Spider-Man has to bear. And it explains why someone would get into a superhero costume and why they would not be irresponsible and why they would go out and they would try to right a wrong that they can absolutely never right no matter what they did. Because even though Spider-Man didn't pull a trigger, by being irresponsible, he learned.
Yeah, and they're kind of. And
really,
I read a book, a really good book that's called How to Write a Goddamn Good Novel.
Cool.
Something like that by a guy named James and Frey. It's also it's not a super thick book, but it has a little bit of all these things you've been talking about, all these little tips and tricks.
Yeah, you want to know what? A lot of these are very similar, and none of them teach all of the same thing. They teach a lot of the same things, but you can find, like, we all have different experience, and my experience in writing is actually very limited, especially like getting to the point of structure and really understanding, like, what is that character's evolution really going to be? Like with Chromium Man, which we did in the 1990s, the science fiction super weapons, super hero kind of guy. A lot of that, I was like a reluctant superhero character that quit and didn't want to keep fighting and was forced to fight and was trying to stay out of things, and they kept looking for him. A lot of that was me. But learning about the writing is fascinating. What you'll find, though, is this is another great thing about the Film Courage YouTube channel is you have access to a lot of these great professors, and you can learn from each of them. But you'll kind of see like whose work, like, would you want to go buy their book and really understand more about like their entire process, because everybody's got kind of like different methods. And you, like with this Jill Chamberlain, I can't get a full graphic novel like that covers everything that needs to be there, but the structure and the fundamentals and making sure that, you know, the story makes sense and that it's balanced in how it's told. I can definitely get that from her, which is very cool. So yeah, you can really, guys, you can learn a lot from that. Just if you're curious about it, Film Courage YouTube channel.
The Nutshell Method, or what is that? Is that the book?
Yeah, that is it. I'll paste it in the. Yeah, you know what? A lot of these things, guys, you don't have to go buying books immediately. You just go look on a YouTube channel, and you know, if you put in even just the Nutshell Method, if you're curious about it, you'll see interviews. They cover 80 to 90% for free.
Yeah, no, that's true. All these interviews, you can watch them for free.
Yeah, 80 to 90% of what you're going to get from it, you can get it for free there. What I like about her book, though, is on each of the subjects, like character flaws. she spends an entire chapter on character flaws, and then she cites a lot of the character story, the movie Tootsie, and that main character, and she explains the difference between. Yeah, so he was arrogant, and as one of his qualities of being arrogant, that character did not respect women. And this is going back, I think, to the 1970s when they made Tootsie, different era. So what he would do he would just basically be a player. He would kind of consider them a lesser species, whatever. So now respect women it means something different than it did in the 1970s. The 1970s is like, they're not animals, like, they're human beings. Like, let's be a little decent to them. Which now it's evolved into,
men are animals,
right? Unfortunately, it's reversed.
It's getting weird now. Yes,
quality is not what they say it is. But what's interesting about him as a character, he's an actor. He's trying to get a movie role. So he didn't have any movie roles. He's an arrogant guy. But that's not really costing him work. He's actually a very good actor. He goes for a role, can't get the role. Then he goes for a woman's role because he's willing to take anything, he says, as a role. So he goes in dressed as a woman. He gets the role of a woman dressed as a woman. Now that's actually probably considered encouraged. But back in the 1970s, you actually had to be a woman to get a role as a woman in a TV show. So he got the role. And the idea of this was, well, how cool. Like, you're going to show that a character's main flaw is that they don't respect women. He has to perform as a woman. And then as he takes on the identity of a woman, he sees things differently with people hitting on him and stuff like that. You get a whole different point of view. So then
I've never heard of that movie. That sounds pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, the U.S. Tootsie. It's a classic, and she loves it for structure. This Jill Chamberlain. The structure of it is phenomenal for storytelling, and the way she describes it. I think it's pretty. I actually downloaded it because I haven't seen it in years, and I plan to watch it again. But I like the very methodical template stuff, so that we don't waste a lot of time when we're trying to write and develop things and forget, like, oh, you know what,
my character has no flaws. Like, shoot.
Yeah. Well, the whole
there's
thing
no change.
What's funny
there's
about
no conflict.
And what becomes funny about a character's flaw. Now, the character can have all sorts of flaws, just as the character can have all sorts of wants. But the character's main flaw is what we care about. Like, this guy was arrogant. At the end of the movie, after he learns to respect women more, he's still arrogant. He wasn't supposed to, cure him of it. He respects women and he's arrogant. So that's fine.
One thing that many people forget, that like if you present someone with certain flaws, it's not like they're going to change to a completely different person. They're still going to have a little bit of these things that make him the person who he is. Even though he learns a lesson, he changed a little bit, he's still going to have a little bit of that, no?
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's just like when the character gets a little bit enlightened,
He's still the same person, no?
Yeah, same person, just a little bit more enlightened.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to that character later on? Who knows? Maybe in the sequel, he would get divorced and she'd take him for all his money and cheat on him and stuff. Things happen in life. You got to kind of. I don't know.
But I think that the flaws make us human. That's why all these Mary Sues, like, they don't resonate with anyone, because no one is perfect. No one is without flaws, and no one is like perfect at anything without training. And
I think that Lord Ravener might disagree with you that no one is perfect, right, Lord Ravener?
Oh, is he going to start something with Adam was right?
I would think so. I would think so. Well. Let's go over the tiers. I know I got us off in this whole writing discussion. Flaws can make a character a learning experience. It's from Unhinged Entertainment. It seems like a pretty hinged comment to me. Flaws can make a character a learning experience is what comes from having flaws. Absolutely. If a character doesn't learn and grow, they become stagnant and boring. Yeah, absolutely. And the whole thing is too, it's okay. What's interesting is this, that I learned from this Chamberlain book, this Nutshell Technique. The story is the character's perfect test of their main flaw. That's their test of their flaw. So if Adam, whatever my flaw is, let's say, I don't want to say, maybe it's a test of my arrogance. So then I'm lowered to deal with whatever. So if I don't learn from it, the story is the test. It's a tragedy if I don't learn at the end. If Spider-Man gets these powers, now the character goes on. So then after the character is a tragedy and he didn't use his powers responsibly, because his flaw was, and this is another cool thing about the Spider-Man story, is he's not assumed as an adult and he's not a child. It's a teenager story. And a teenager story is not going to be something like, oh, he's not respecting women enough, because he's a teenager. He's still learning about life. So you don't see character flaws, the author was explaining, in children, because children are assumed to kind of be innocent and they don't have full agency. They're not the story is that are relatable to us are stories about adults where the adult has a choice in the matter. Like, how are you going to behave? Now, there may be reasons for why you don't love and you don't trust people and you're a loner or whatever it is, but that's assumed to be by choice. So in the case of Spider-Man, he's learning responsibility. A teenager must learn responsibility, and learning responsibility is what makes a man out of them. And what's interesting about the beginning of the Spider-Man story is he's getting blown off by girls. He's not invited to a dance, even though they just needed like one more guy for a dance. So some girl is saying to Flash Thompson, like, oh, we need somebody else for a dance. How about that Peter Parker? And they're like, forget Peter Parker. He doesn't know the difference between a cha-cha and a waltz. Like, that's the insult from 1964 or whatever that was. But the point is, because he's not a man, he's not being respected. That is what he needs to learn, the responsibility to become a man. And it would have been a much different story if Spider-Man and Peter Parker had made the choice when he had the choice to stop that villain, which would be a cool hero, but he wouldn't have had that cross to bear. It's something to think about when we're writing. And you could also, like, he's just a kid, he's not perfect. It's like, well, but you got the responsibility and the powers, of more than an adult. You got to learn to use your power responsibly. When you're a teenager, you can get somebody killed, which is like why you can't drive drunk, and you're supposed to be responsible and careful.
Yeah,
and
it's a perfect allegory for, like when you're growing up as a teenager, you're starting to become pretty strong,
Yeah. So when we're writing a story about a superhero, it's interesting because you don't really see a lot of superhero stories. IG through Indiegogo and through Comicsgate, you don't see a lot of superheroes. We're starting to have more superhero stories, but I don't think we have any teenage superheroes off the top of my head. We have very few superheroes as it is, but it's something I am thinking about is, do I want to tell a teenager story, a woman's story or a man's story? Like, where is this going to fit? And like, where is this character going to be in their life? And it's something to think about, what kind of story that you want to relate to and that you want to tell. But Spider-Man, after this tragedy, you can certainly, and I can't cite from memory like Spider-Man stories, whatever. He can have a story with him as a hero now after that, and him doing the right thing, and have it be in the classification of Aristotle's comedy rather than a tragedy, as long as he makes the right choice when he's supposed to make the right choice, basically.
So it starts as a tragedy and it went on to
that would be him learning from his situation, not that it would fix the cross he permanently has to bear. Can you imagine? I didn't even think about that until like really analyzing the story. Having to wake up in your aunt's house every day and be like, it's my fault that uncle is dead.
That'd be crazy. Well, I think it's not that it was directly his fault, but
it's his fault. He could have stopped.
It would be weird. I think it would be certainly weird to be in that situation.
Could have stopped the guy who was the killer, and he was like, "No, that's not my job."
Right. Yeah. But he didn't know that was going to happen.
No, he didn't know that was going to happen. But the thing is
you would if that happened to you, you would still blame yourself for it.
Oh, I would have stopped the guy, because here's why I would have done it, is because when you have superpowers, it's one thing to be a teenager and then a crook runs by and they're like, Adam, stop that guy. Because that's what the freaking cop said. He's like, hey, stop him. They'd be like, I have a Jewish mother. And, I was raised a Jewish kid. We barely played sports. we were not allowed to have snow fights. You know, we got over bundled up in the winter. So my Jewish mother would not have wanted me to stop a criminal, you know, running, you know, even if a cop said, hey, go stop him. But if you have superhero powers, then the villain is not a threat to you. If it's not a threat and you're not going to stop that person and you're going to let them run, and your reason for not stopping them is not because you're concerned they're a threat. Your reason for not stopping them is because you're like, that's not my job.
Because this other thing happened to you, no?
That's not my job. That was his ad. That's what he said. He's like, that's not my job. That's your job. Well, you can't, if you're going to live your life like that, like it would be trivial for you to do something, you know, but like, no, I can't be put out. I can't help, you know, a policeman who's, you know, trying to stop this guy and I happen to be nearby and I could just like stick my foot out or something. Like I can't, you know what I mean? Like that is something that Peter Parker should have done. So, you know, he deserves everything he gets as a result of that. Because the thing is, you have this power. Come on, you got to do it. So don't forgive him for that. Eric Huffle says this, and he's a dinosaur, so he knows a lot of stuff. He's been around a long time. The other way they classify stories is as a positive character arc, Spidey's origin story. A flat character arc, most Spidey stories where he doesn't change, but he makes other characters better. What did you call me, a cunt? Oh, no, continued. And I thought Eric liked me. And as negative, I know you didn't. Okay, I'm just kidding. And as negative character arcs where the character fails to overcome their fatal flaw. The Green Goblin, for example. Yeah, I mean, you know, they're telling hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories. So the character's not going to change every story. And you would think it would be interesting for them to kind of make an editorial decision to say like, all right, well, first of all, we're not going to keep changing who Spider-Man is. And we're not going to have 55 different Spider-Mans. That would be a good editorial choice probably to start with. But then the second thing is like, all right, we know we're going to be dealing with these characters for the course of, let's say, you know, hopefully decades. So let's take 5 years, you know, and we'll tell this character story. And then maybe you reboot after 5 years, ideally 10 years, you know, and 10 years is a long time, but if you know what you're working with, there's a lot stories you can tell in the course of 5 or 10 years. You can keep relatively good continuity. But of course they're not as concerned with that, but
no, they're concerned more with making. But I also read one time that, you know, about story making, that one of the things to structure your whole story is that you start with a theme that you want to demonstrate over the course of the story, right?
You can learn a lot from if you're going to speak to theme. You can learn a lot from Robert McKee, who did a book called Story. He's got a ton of videos.
I haven't heard from him, but what I was saying is that, you know, you have a theme and you want to demonstrate that, and sometimes you demonstrate it through the fact that the hero didn't learn anything, and because of that he went into this horrible tragedy or whatever, no? So your theme is demonstrated through the actions of the hero, even though it's tragic that in the end he doesn't learn anything, you know, like, I don't know, maybe the story.
With great power comes great responsibility is definitely the theme for the Spider-Man origin story. You do see Flash Thompson being irresponsible and, you know, abusing his power and mocking and messing with Peter Parker, bullying. You see that theme throughout the whole thing. And then you see, and you can tell that story, you know, you can utilize that theme, which is the theme is the point of your story. And if you want to take the Spider-Man story and say, listen, the point of the Spider-Man story is to let people know that when you get great power, you have great responsibility. You have a responsibility to do that. And if you do not use that responsibility wisely, if you just blow it off, if you're just self-indulgent, if you don't respect society, if you don't respect your culture, you're going to get punished for it. And you'll find out how when things happen. And in his case, he's got that cross to bear forever. Because he chose to be irresponsible with his power. So with great power comes great responsibility. You got to respect it. Now you could tell a different kind of story. You could also try and tell a story as a theme with great power does not come great responsibility. And then you would take a story. It's almost like having a debate. You take the other side of the debate And
yeah, you become arrogant with great power, and then the story is about proving how someone getting powers becomes arrogant and haughty.
yeah, like
and,
you could have had Peter Parker. You could have obviously had his uncle not get shot and not had that problem happen. You could have had him just getting richer and richer with his wrestling matches and meeting girls and having fun and just having a great life at the end and just showing that, like, wow, he got power. He did whatever the hell he wanted all the time and nothing bad happened. And that you could make you could make that argument. You just have to design the story to make that point. Stories are supposed to have a point. So it is good that it has, it is good to utilize themes with storytelling. But again, it's all part of, like, people have different methods. But Robert McKee wrote a great book called Story. And I loved that book. Read it 20 years ago. Yeah, there's a lot of interviews that he's done on YouTube, a lot of little clips and stuff. And he has a famous screenwriting class that just about everybody in Hollywood, I think, has taken. But he also does a great job in his book of Story of talking about genre conventions, meaning, for example, and this is stuff that I certainly didn't know before I read it in his book 20 years ago, a science fiction story is supposed to be a statement about the future. That's what it's supposed to be. It's not just like, well, we got some fucking spaceships. Like, no, it's not some fucking spaceships. You can have your spaceships, but if it's a science fiction story, it's supposed to be a statement about the future. Why? Well, because there's advanced technology, and that's what the genre calls for. So, as he explains it, he's like, listen, if you're going to do a science fiction story and you're messaging, this is a science fiction story. When you message that, there's a cultural history of all of your potential audience has seen the cultural history of science fiction, and almost all of them are statements about the future. So if you go against the grain in the genre, you could do that. But again, it's sort of like
there's an expectation of what people think sci-fi. Okay, it's going to have that.
They're buying in for that. They want that, like a TNA film, like we used to have in Good in the 80s. Stripes and all these fun movies with girls jumping around without tops and stuff, and wet t-shirt contests. People know what a TNA movie is. Unfortunately, they don't really make those anymore. But you don't have like a serious romance in a movie like that, because that's not what that kind of movie is about. So he lists about 18 different genres and stuff. And what he says is the same thing that Picasso said about art, which is, Picasso said, good artists borrow, I think, and great artists steal. But what people say, Picasso did say that, I know that that's expression. A very cool expression. But what people will say about Picasso's art is like, yes, it's not structured. It's not typical art. It's not traditional, and he has his own style and he has his own, rules and his own aesthetics. But you still get, we still have it in comics now. AAT.
Exactly.
That is. But you don't start out drawing like Picasso. You have to learn your anatomy. You have to learn the structures and learn the basics. And then you can come up with your own style based on those cultural aesthetics. What's so cool is, too, you get such a head start when you know that you're telling a story and, okay, these sorts of things happen. The limitations are very empowering. It's not disempowering. And similarly, like with a superhero story, you have to have a nemesis in a superhero story that's like stronger than your villain, stronger than your superhero. You really do. You have to do that.
Him and to
make it be like
flaws, to make him shine even more, no?
Yeah, because you have, like, think of a James Bond movie, think of John Wick. They're up against like these villains who have obviously more power than they do. They've got more resources. Our hero looks like they're going to lose. This is a really bit like the little guy against the big guy. That type of dynamic is really, really helpful because, you have the action, you have the fighting. You don't want just like, and obviously people tell all sorts of different stories, all different sorts of different formats. But when you have an action movie or a comic book movie or a spy movie, or like you've got John Wick, an assassin adventure action movie, you don't want to see somebody just sitting in their room contemplating like internal struggles, or learning to feel again. Like you can, any of that stuff could be a subplot, but it can't be a main story. And what's interesting was Adam Friended has been very generous with his time with me. He has a YouTube channel. He's going to be launching a campaign, I think tomorrow, very soon, called Supervillains Anonymous.
Or something like that.
Adam used to run writing workshops with other writers, and they used to come up with these great log lines and story ideas. And he's given me such great feedback and pointed me in the direction of some of these authors who teach about writing. And Adam and I were talking about a story, and I was telling him about the story I had with this superhero character that was working with a mentor. And I was like, well, so that's what the story is going to be. And he was like, well, where's your villain though? I'm like, well, there's focus isn't so much on the villain. He's like, well, you can't just have like this internal struggle like in an action project. And it's funny because you don't, that's why genre is so important, like really understanding and thinking about the genre. And I was like, he made a really good, he's a good thing about him is he'll just tell you straight. And there's always a risk, like when you tell people things straight, that they take it, the wrong way, or people don't like hearing criticism and things like that. But
taking criticism is hard.
It is. It's hard.
Some people don't take it so.
But you know what? It's only people. That's a great thing about with Comicsgate. You kind of feel like who you can trust or whatever. I get criticism. I'm getting more than ever about different sorts of things, and it's fun to talk about.
I saw that Ethan was talking about your Mermaids book, but
because of the panel.
Yeah, exactly. But I said, hey, you took it like a champ, and you were like, yeah, I'm here, and I'm going to improve upon it, and
because it wasn't what it was originally designed for. Mermaids was designed as almost like a comic strip because it's designed as a web comic. Here's Mermaids.
I think that I saw your website a couple of months ago. When you were campaigning, you said that you had like a whole website with all the characters and the descriptions of the characters and all these different factions. I remember going to the website and seeing some of it.
Yeah, we had a lot of it.
Like a webcomic.
Yeah, it was designed to be a webcomic, and at the time I thought, because I started this like I don't know if it was 8 years ago or 9 years ago, something like that. And the idea was, I was looking at all the webcomics that were so successful on Kickstarter. There was one in particular called Ava's Demon, and I think my panel size matches her panel size. I think that's how I came up with this panel size. It was similar to comics, and I figured ultimately I'd collect it in print as comics, but that the main audience would be generated by a webcomic. And the brilliant thing about it was, and she was able to do this, you could do a 6-panel grid, have nice art, good storytelling if the writer is good and they understand how to use the format, but you can publish it like 1 panel a day and have regular updates, with dialogue. So it's kind of like you could consistently have your story coming out and have new content like on a regular basis while you're building an audience. It's all possible. I tried it a little bit with College of the Dead. We ended up with like 3,000 followers on the College of the Dead Facebook page when we were doing that with College of the Dead. But it's a whole different business. It takes a lot more patience. The people that follow webcomics are not the same people that are
comics necessarily.
Print comics, yeah. And then there's a social media component to it being like the artist who's creating it. So you're kind of drawing it, and then it's a whole Tumblr thing, and it's like, all right, this is getting
it's another it was too much, kind of. Yeah.
Enough margins for 2 loaves of bread. Exactly. The more bread, the better. This is going to be my last. I'm not going to do new stuff for that format because it's so much more fun to do the dynamic pages and stuff like that.
Someone even I think did like a little example of how you could rearrange the panels. Also that like people in comics can say, hey, why don't you try this? Blah, blah, blah. Look,
yeah, it was so cool. They did mock-ups and stuff. Noidzabot did something. Yeah, I'm experimenting with some stuff. I'm not ready to share what it looks like, but I heard what everybody had to say, and I love Billy Tucci and Dan Frega. They did like rough layouts for me, and
it was Billy Tucci. No,
Ethan asked on. Oh, I can mention Ethan as well because Ethan mentioned publicly on Twitter. He asked if people love him or not. I don't know if you noticed that. he had a poll. Do people love me? Do you love me? Yes or no? So I selected,
yeah, something like that. I don't know.
he did. I selected yes. I do love him, and I put it on his Twitter in the vote for yes on the poll. But I appreciate him too, because like he was saying, he's like, no, I'm giving Adam a hard time because I know he can make a better presented book than this. I know he can make a better book like that. That's like a straight up brotherhood thing. That's something.
Yeah, no, it comes from a place of respect. Also, I don't know, love, but certainly respect.
Join us, man.
Because if he wouldn't care, he wouldn't say anything. You're like, whatever, do your comic. No, but if he cares,
I wouldn't be welcome there.
Yeah, he first of all, he would not be welcome there, of course, and then he, you know, when you care about someone, you say like, hey man, why don't you try this?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and I try not, I try to control myself with the unsolicited advice. But it's so amazing for everyone in CG is different people in CG have different things to offer and different experience. For example, you just contributed that absolutely 100%. John Malin is handling, campaigns. They don't have to be $50,000 campaigns. It can be sub 10,000. Just reach out to him. You already had a positive experience with it. I didn't know that. From the chat, we got great feedback, suggesting about your color, your black and white pages, which it did occur to me because I wasn't sure when I first looked. So I'll tell you what, a lot of people going through your campaign, they see a color page, but they've seen black and white already. So it's like they think it's black and white, even when they see color. So basically your backing is based on people thinking it's black and white, realistically. So it's pretty funny. This sounds funny. Adam is my snowcap eating brother in arms. Absolutely. I am down with the snowcaps, almost a box a night. Snowcaps here is a dark chocolate candy with little white sugar things on top. I do like my snowcaps. I haven't been eating them during shows, but I really ought to. You're a Whoppers guy. I eat Whoppers too.
Oh my
goodness. I got them in a Halloween candy. I don't know if you have Whoppers there.
The Burger King, you mean?
No, it's different. It's it's a circle malt candy, and there's like a chocolate coating on the outside of them. They're really good too. I should be breaking up my Whoppers and my snow caps. And I don't eat Junior Mints anymore. I like Junior Mints, but there are a lot of calories for the Do you have You must have Junior Mints in Switzerland.
Maybe, but I don't know. This candy.
Who's the other guy in Switzerland?
These candy brands, they don't ring a bell. Also, we have like Toblerone.
You guys, Toblerone is
Lindt and all these different, chocolate brands.
Malt, chocolate candy, theater candy stuff. Excellent. What up, Zaid? What is this stream about? Chocolate? Yeah, this stream is about it's about chocolate.
Discussing chocolate.
It's about people loving me. It's about people backing Red Eyes too. It's about a lot of stuff, but writing. We're just pretty much hanging out and having a good time because the vibe is there tonight. We're having a good.
We've been talking a lot about writing and writing theory, I guess you would call it.
Zane is like,
for campaigns.
Phil is like, look, I want to do more shows. It comes work on some different formats and stuff. If you're listening to this is not the perfectly formatted show. This stream went off the rails in a good way. Do they have Lemonheads? That's an important question.
Lemonheads in Sweden? I don't know. I live in Switzerland, and
Switzerland.
I don't know about Lemonheads. So
is that a sensitive topic, by the way? Is it?
No, not at all.
Okay. Well, I gotta get Phil on for Magic Cop 2. Thank you, Eric. Sign up for Magic Cop 2 as well. That is launching soon. The reprint of Magic Cop 1 has a Kelsey Shannon cover, so all Magic Cop 1's fans are going to want it. And
I'm looking forward to that, to get 1 and 2.
Yeah, Phil has done great. He did great with the Lost Pages. He shipped all his books, kept all his promises. Another guy who had good experience with Mixam printing. So Phil is doing a lot. Phil's great. Everybody knows who Phil is too now, which is great.
Yeah, I was able to. He had me on his channel one time as well.
Cool.
So thank you, Mr. Said, Philip.
In other words, you need to get him back on. We got to sell some more comics. We're Americans and we don't give a damn about geography. Exactly.
Yeah.
Switzerland, Sweden. Are you?
That was the same in Mexico. Like between Sweden and Swaziland and Switzerland.
We can't keep track of that. We don't even know where our states are for the most part. We sort of know them apart.
There's like America, and there's rest of the world. So
I don't know. It's good to know some geography. No,
it's on,
don't
it's
feel bad.
on the right of
You're
the
better.
United.
You just got a few minutes to go. Oh, no. It's good to see you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Sweet.
no worries.
He's also in the mountains right now, as we found that out earlier. All right.
Yeah.
Guys, do you have any other questions about Red Eyes 2? Or about any other comments about candy? I also like Kit Kats. Do you have Kit Kats?
That we have, yes, we have
All
that. I've seen those in the store.
I think that your Kit Kats there are by a different company than here in the US.
That could be like there's so many things that look similar. Like even
Mhm.
the brand logo is the same, but the name is different. I don't know if because of copyrights or trademarks or whatever.
You guys have a whole different, like, you know who could speak to this? Charlie's London. We'll have to do a show about this. Chocolate in the UK is all different than chocolate here. Like, to
Oh, I
my
bet, yeah.
understanding. Yeah, they make it different. I mean, the stuff, everything in Europe is like probably like 10 times better quality, to be honest. But what do we care?
In Switzerland, like the whole deal with
Let's go over the tiers.
sweet bread is yeah.
What
like a
tiers?
whole
Why are we talking about tiers? All right, yeah, let's go over the tiers. Yeah, that's a good point. You even have
All
a
right.
mermaid in there. Dungeon Master. What does this have to do with Dungeons and Dragons? Dungeon Master Perk 2.
Well, the thing is that the feature perk includes the comic, includes an ashcan, and it includes a thing we call the Sexy Monster Girl Bestiary, which is basically a lexicon of all the monsters of Red Eyes, but with sexy pinups.
Cool.
And the second one, also Volume 2, the one that's in the campaign here, is going to be featuring mostly, water and underground creatures. That's why the mermaid is in the cover.
Ah, cool. Very cool.
And
right.
then that's a feature perk. Then we have, a second chance to get the first book, and with a different cover, second chance cover.
Cool.
So the first cover gets more, I don't know, special. And then the comic, short and sweet. The one with the villains cover, the official cover, and the one with the alternative cover by Wtih, the Odysseus Theodoratos, the guy from Xenotype.
Oh, we love him.
Yeah, he's pretty good actually, and he did a cover for us, and I was like, hey, that's super good. And of course the bundle, no, Red Eyes 1 and 2 together, and that's it. The drawn-in tiers have all been taken now.
Very cool. Yeah, drawn-in tiers, guys. Take note of that. People like drawn-in tiers.
Yeah, I had two, and they both went out flying, more or less.
Yeah, I got to think about that.
And and for the feature perk, you can get the first book as an add-on. People were telling me to include that as an add-on, so it's you can take it there as well.
All right, guys. So you see that David is cool, people. You guys have seen him around. One of the things I've noticed about David is he's been very supportive of people's campaigns, even when he does super chats. He doesn't do like what Phil does. And by the way, what Phil does is the correct thing to do. Because what Phil will do will be like, hey, something relevant to the topic. And by the way, Lost Pages is shipping now. Like, kind of do have to promote like that. If you do it, this is like I'm not even really being facetious. Like in all seriousness, it's great to just always be putting your word out, always getting awareness, and it's great to acknowledge people. But it is even better to be like, I love chocolate too. And make sure to check out Red Eyes on Indiegogo. You know what I mean? Or like my favorite candy. My favorite candy is Toblerone, if there's enough letters in there for the super chat. And Red Eyes 2 still on IG, is still in demand or something like that. Because you want to do that because you're selfless when it comes to that, it is nice, but it's good to be messaging constantly. It's a good discipline.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. And
people understand. We know. We don't think anything negative of it. And Phil's got it down to a science. He does it better than I do. Because
sometimes you can exaggerate it, but if you keep it easy once a day or more than once a day or every now and then, or be cheeky about it, then it's good. Yeah.
Reach out to Phil if he's available. Maybe do a show or I could do that with Phil too. Is talk about Phil's self-promotion and his attitude towards it. Nobody doesn't like Phil. Everybody likes him. And there's a thing with like, I mean, we're Americans, maybe we're pushy, whatever, but we are.
I have to learn a little bit of that because, like,
just so this is exactly how you learn it, and this is how anyone learns it. This is the master class in how to be pushy, but not too pushy.
Yeah, be cool about it.
So how do you like, hey, look at me? Like, no, the way you be cool about it, the way you do it is observe how other people conduct themselves. And as long as you love your project, you have every right to do the same. So that's why I keep mentioning Phil at Zaid Comics. You know, he does a great job of it, and he doesn't overstay his welcome. I don't see anybody, behind the scenes. I haven't told Phil this, but I'm sure he knows. I don't see anybody behind the scenes being like, that Phil Diaz, he pushes it too much, whatever. I could probably say that about me more, but maybe. I don't know. They seem pretty
no.
Who knows? I think twice about that kind of stuff. I respect everybody and insult maybe half of them, but I'm an imperfect soul, but Phil is perfect.
We are all ours.
So, but in all seriousness, look at how people conduct themselves. Look at how often go to Phil's. I keep pointing out Phil, but seriously, he's a great example. Like, go to Phil's Twitter feed and look at how often he's sending out promo tweets, and what's the subject matter of his promo tweets. What is he talking about? And is it always the same thing? Very often I use the same thing. Phil does even a better job where he's mixing it up a little bit. He's got some new art that he's excited about, and rightfully so. He tries to make it as interesting and unique as possible. And I haven't been like stalking him, but when I've seen him do the super chats, he's been very good at that. Another thing is occasionally Ethan is putting out. I think I saw you, David, on Ethan's channel once when he had. I thought I did. I know I've seen Phil though a couple of times on just about everybody's channel. Like, if they put the link out, he's there. Now you're 6 hours ahead, and you have different family life and stuff like that. But the point is taking every opportunity like that as much as you can. And then if you are going to do a super chat, I don't care, if there's a national tragedy or something like that, or there's space invasion, some alien invasion, like, oh my God, this alien invasion is really scaring me. By the way, Red Eyes is still in. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has to be there every time. It has to be there every time. But
you have to be cheeky about it. That's what I say. You cannot just be like, back my campaign, back my campaign.
You don't have to be that cheeky even. You just what I mean is you don't have to be cutesy or anything. It's just you have to have it in there somewhere. So if it's topic related, that's great. But even if it's not topic related, Red Eyes 2 now still in demand. And you'll see sometimes we know what's going on. We promote campaigns. So if somebody sends a super chat to me mentioning a project, I usually spend a little more time on that super chat. And I've seen Ethan do it. I've seen other channels do it too sometimes, because they kind of know, all right, we're trying to move a needle. Have a good night, Unhinged. Great to see you.
His book. Have you seen this book? That looks.
I know he's doing a book. I don't remember the title.
Absolute is that's a black and white comic.
Okay, cool.
It's pretty unhinged. But it's pretty cool.
Hit me up if you're whatever your stage is at, as long as it's still available, or if you have a sign up. Pretty much anybody can hit me up.
Sign up for his second book.
Okay, then we ought to have him on. Got to get to know that guy. He seems like cool people. All right. We did the tiers. Thanks to Unhinged Entertainment. Reminded me that we were actually doing a show. That's cool. And got to know you a little bit better, which is very cool. And I had a good time talking writing with you. Guys, let's go ahead and support Red Eyes 2 as much as humanly possible, even slightly beyond. A little bit of superheroism in there would be good. You don't want it to turn into a tragedy. Unhinged.
Also, there'll be a little bit of a tragedy, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, hit me up, Unhinged. Get some rest. Hit me up. Let's see where things are at, and anywhere we can help. But yeah, let's make sure we back the campaign as best as we can. It's a huge support to share the campaign when you're sharing on social media, even if it's you don't have a big following. To be honest with you, so when we're sharing the Mermaids and I got 15 shares or 12 shares or 18 shares, that one extra share and or particularly extra share and extra 19, sometimes it just gives you a boost as a project creator to see people got your back. And another thing is, when you're sharing someone's campaign, we make a mental note of it. So
yeah.
I don't. There's very little I do like if someone never is going to never share my campaign and never has a nice thing to say about me, it's a little hard to go out of your way to promote that person, you know, maybe more than once or something like that. So
Yeah,
there's a little bit of like we're sharing each other's social media a little bit when we're sharing each other's campaigns, and everybody can use the help, even with Ethan's campaigns. You know, I don't have a bigger social media presence than Ethan Van Sciver does, but I do share his campaigns because one thing I'm excited about is projects, but also I can't do enough to you know help him for as much as he's helped me. So and there's no written contract or anything like that. It's just we all do the best we can to support each other's projects. Yeah, I don't know what Absolute Book 2 is about whatsoever, but Unhinged is cool people. I'm curious to know more about it, so we'll find out. But yeah,
it's very trippy, but it's very cool.
All right. If it's unhinged, then it's got to be interesting.
Yeah, that's a good word to describe it.
There you go. All right, so we're going to wrap it for tonight. David, I'm glad you could make some time. I know you got to get some rest as well.
Yes, thank you very much for having me on your show, Adam.
It was a lot of fun.
It was nice to meet you, and yeah, no, thank you very much.
Check out those books, see what's up with that.
Yes,
and, let's see what John says about mentioning the fulfillment, because people should at least know that it ships from the USA. But if people know that it's his company, maybe it'll inspire some other people to contact him and realize that there's nobody.
It is working.
Everybody is in John's bracket in terms of price. You don't have to have a campaign with at least 200 backers or whatever. You know, you can have apparently any size, and John's taking people on. All right, let's have a good night, guys. It was great seeing you. I'm going to have Doomsday Kingdom on tomorrow night. We're going to talk about Doomsday Kingdom 2, 9 o'clock. Love Pigeon, Jim, the great artist for that. It'll be a lot of fun. I will see you guys again soon. And as you probably all know by now, if I don't see you, I will miss you. See you again soon, guys.